You're not depressed, you're not broken, but something is off. And you can't explain it to anyone, because from the outside, your life looks fine, maybe even good. You show up, you get things done. You smile when it's required. But somewhere between the alarm in the morning and the moment you finally close your eyes at night, you lost yourself. And the strangest part is that you don't know exactly when it happened. There was no breakdown. No single day where you thought, this is where I disappear. It was quieter than that. So quiet, you almost didn't notice. And here's what nobody tells you about that silence. It isn't emptiness, it's you. Your own voice, still trying to reach you in a frequency you forgot how to hear. Every human being is born with an internal signal, not a metaphor, a literal neurological system that is constantly generating information. Preferences, aversions, desires, warnings, tiny precise messages from your own nervous system about what feels right, what feels wrong, what belongs to you, and what never did. Developmental psychologist Dr. Daniel Stern spent decades studying how this internal system forms in early childhood. And what he found was this. When a child learns that her internal signals are inconvenient to the people around her, when her feelings are too much, her needs create conflict. Her truth disrupts the calm. She begins to override them. Not consciously, automatically. She learns to listen outward instead of inward. She becomes extraordinarily good at reading what others need, at anticipating, adjusting, accommodating, at making herself useful, manageable, easy. And the world rewards her for it. She is called mature, thoughtful, low maintenance, easy to be around. What no one says, what no one ever says, is that she has quietly learned to treat her own inner signal as less important than everyone else's comfort. And she does this for years, decades, sometimes, until one day she sits very still and realizes she doesn't know what she wants anymore. Not from a relationship, not from her work, not even from a free afternoon with nothing scheduled. She has been so busy translating herself for others that she forgot her original language. This is not weakness. This is not a character flaw. This is what happens when a woman spends too long surviving the noise of other people's needs. Stay with me here. The silence you feel inside, that vague absence, that low-grade sense that something important is missing, most women interpret that as evidence that something is wrong with them. It isn't. It is signaled at your internal compass. Still speaking, still trying to reach you. In a language you learned to ignore so long ago that you've forgotten you ever spoke it. And here is what cognitive behavioral research has documented about why that silence is so hard to break. The brain, once accustomed to constant external input, notifications, demands other people's emotional weather, begins to experience genuine quiet, not as relief, but as threat. The moment the noise stops, anxiety rises. Not because something is wrong, because quiet means you have to hear what has been waiting underneath. And what has been waiting underneath is the part of you that was never given permission to speak. The most organized, high-functioning, outwardly capable women are often the most disconnected from themselves. Not because they are less aware, because they became so efficient at managing everything external that the internal world got systematically pushed aside. Not forgotten, pushed aside. Psychoanalysis calls this over-adaptation. The nervous system learns to prioritize everything outside at the expense of everything inside. And when that happens long enough, the internal signals don't disappear. They transform. They become chronic fatigue that no amount of sleep fixes. They become a low-grade resentment with no clear target. They become that particular kind of loneliness, the kind you feel even when you are surrounded by people who love you. Dr. Bessel Kolk spent 30 years studying what happens when the body's internal signals are consistently suppressed. His conclusion was direct. The body keeps score. It stores what the mind has learned to ignore, and it speaks in symptoms. Tension in the shoulders, the jaw clenched at night, the inexplicable sadness on a Sunday afternoon, the feeling, just the feeling that something important is passing by while you are busy being responsible and useful and fine. These are not disorders. They are messages. From the part of you that never stopped trying to reach you, and here is something that most advice completely misses. The solution is not to escape the noise. You can't. Life is loud and it will always be loud. The solution is to cultivate a different relationship with silence. Deliberately, intentionally. Not as a technique, as a practice. Because real inner silence is not the absence of thought. It is a different quality of attention. There is a profound difference between the woman who tries to stop thinking, who fights the noise, wrestles with her own mind, demands that it go quiet, and the woman who simply watches her thoughts arrive, like weather, without becoming the storm. One is still fighting herself. The other is beginning to know herself. And that knowing that particular quality of self-witnessing is where everything starts. Because here is what simplifying your inner life actually means. And psychology is very clear on this. It does not mean having fewer problems. It does not mean feeling less. It means developing the capacity to discern which feelings are yours, genuinely, originally yours, and which belong to the accumulated expectations of everyone else. You became so fluent in what everyone else needed that you forgot your own native tongue. And somewhere in that process, You started to mistake the noise for yourself. You started to believe that the constant attending, the endless accommodating, the reflexive putting of others first was simply who you were. It wasn't. It was something you learned. And things that are learned can be unlearned. Not quickly, not without discomfort, but genuinely, permanently unlearned, replaced with something older and truer than the pattern that covered it. Viktor Frankl wrote that between stimulus and response, there is a space. And in that space lies our freedom. What we are talking about is that space. Most women have let it collapse entirely. Someone needs something, they provide it. Something goes wrong, they absorb it. Someone is upset, they fix it automatically, without a single moment to ask, is this mine to carry? And over time, that automatic responsiveness takes a toll that doesn't show up in obvious ways. It shows up as the slow erosion of desire, the fading of preferences, the inability to answer the question, what do you want, without pausing far too long. You became so fluent in what everyone else needed that you forgot your own native tongue. This is not a personal failure. This is the cost of being a woman who was taught that her worth lives in her usefulness. And nobody told you the price? I want to be honest with you about something here because I think this matters. I've done this too. There were years when I was extraordinarily good at attending to everything around me and almost completely unavailable to myself. I mistook the busyness for purpose, the responsiveness for strength, the constant attending to others as evidence that I was a good person. What I didn't understand was that I had slowly, incrementally, silenced the one voice that actually knew what I needed. And by the time I noticed, the silence was so familiar, it felt like who I was. It wasn't dot, it was a habit. Learned so early and reinforced so consistently that it had the feeling of identity. But habits, unlike identity, can be changed. Not all at once, not dramatically, but one moment of listening at a time. The women who have done this work, who have committed to rebuilding the relationship with their own internal signal, don't become louder, they become clearer. There is a difference. A loud woman takes up space with noise. A clear woman takes up space with presence. She doesn't need to over-explain, she doesn't need to constantly justify. She doesn't need external validation to feel steady because she has developed an internal one. That is what becomes possible when you stop silencing yourself. Not a new version of you. The original one. The one that existed before you learned to make yourself small enough to fit. Tonight, just tonight, find 5 minutes. Not stolen from your productivity. Not before bed when you're already exhausted. Deliberately chosen in the middle of something. Put everything down. Sit somewhere quiet, and instead of trying to stop thinking, ask yourself one question. What have I been ignoring? Not what should I do differently? Not what's wrong with me? Just what have I been ignoring? And then wait. Don't force the answer. Don't analyze it. Don't make a list. Just wait, because something will surface. It always does. It may be small, a preference you dismissed, a feeling you talked yourself out of, a desire you buried because the timing wasn't right. And when it surfaces, don't fix it. Don't solve it. Just acknowledge it. Say, even silently, I see you. That is the whole thing. Because what you find when you do this, what surfaces in that quiet, is rarely what you expected. It is almost never, I need a vacation or I need more sleep. It is something older, something that has been waiting much longer. The voice you silenced didn't disappear. It's been waiting for you to stop being too busy to listen. If this reached you in some way, stay close. Subscribe. We're in this together.